Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We are coming to you in a completely different format than what we're used to. So we're remote. I'm in my car, escaping my toddler. Thankfully, I cleaned the car before we did this. We know that right now it's really hard to be able to focus on the positive. There's a lot of frustrations, a lot of concern, and a lot of fear that's going on. It is our human nature to really spend time ruminating on the negative. Negative things really stimulate our brains so much more and tend to capture our attention. So we want to make sure that we're taking some time to give you guys all 10 tips for things that you can do to maintain your happiness during this time.
You're absolutely correct, Chastity. We seem to really ruminate in those negative things. And right now, let's be completely honest, is we cannot get away from it, right? Wherever we turn, there's something negative on the TV, social media, conversations that you're having with people. And we're not saying turn a blind eye to this. This is completely normal. We're expecting you to run into these conversations, and they're unavoidable. The reality is, though, is that we need to recognize that these conversations are going to be existing in the world, and we need to ensure that our health and our mindset stays healthy. One quick little tip that I can give is a 4-to-1 ratio, and that is for every one negative thing that you are reading, talking about, observing, watching, that you try to find 4 positive things to counterbalance that. And that's really going to help to ensure that you keep that healthy mindset.
Now, one of the biggest things that's having an impact on our happiness that we might not even be realizing is that we have just made a major shift in the way that we're working and with the way that we're interacting with people. So typically we go into the office and we're seeing our patients, we're seeing our team members, and we're having conversations, we're having lots of interaction. With social distancing now, we tend to be at home. Our structures have changed around that. We're not getting as much contact with people for the benefit of everyone's health, but it has a huge impact on our mental well-being, our immunity overall, and our health, just our mindset. So we want to make sure that we're giving you guys some good tips to ensure that you're keeping those relationships alive and keeping those social interactions going as well.
Now, these social connections, they have been proven through research to help not only our mental health, but our physical health as well. That your immune system is compromised when we distance ourselves from human beings. So that's something to really harp on, that everyone should understand, is that when we have this social disconnection that's happening right now in the world, and this social distancing that is happening, is that we can start to feel loneliness. And loneliness has a lot of negative health effects on us. In fact, loneliness specifically is more detrimental to our health than smoking and obesity combined. That's huge. And that's something that everyone should recognize. And so if there's a way for us to look at the certain situation that we're in, instead of looking at it so much as social distancing, where we are losing our social connections, and look at it more as physical distancing. There are still ways that we can connect with the people that we love, the people that fill up our cups. And there's so many great things out there, not just the negative, that we can focus on. So let's go ahead and give you 10 things that you can start focusing in on, whether it's connecting with people or things that you can do for yourself that can really help to ensure that you have that happiness and that we're removing that loneliness.
Yeah, the first thing that we can do to make sure that we're keeping all of those relationships kind of relevant and that we're staying in touch is transitioning the way that we're used to interacting. Now, we're having to do this rapid fire. So, this is going to be as simple as making sure that you're texting people to check in with them, whether it's family members, team members, or even jumping on a call. Now, we want to make sure that we're not adding more negativity that we have to then be able to balance out. So, when we have these text conversations or these phone conversations, having some sort of a go-to is going to help out, something positive, whether it's saying, hey, like, I know we're all doing CE from home. Like, what exciting things have you learned? Have you been focusing on any new hobbies? What have you been doing to keep the kids busy throughout the day? Anything positive to go to versus going into that default, which a lot of us are in, of just saying like, oh, what have you heard on the news? Like, what's going on with the practice? What's going on with this practice? really trying not to focus on those things. There's definitely a place for those conversations, but we don't want to dwell too much. We really want to make sure that we're able to keep that 4-to-1 ratio. One negative thing, you can have a work conversation in the morning, but then trying to stoke those interactions with positive things that you're doing during this time of social distancing.
Now, talk and text is great, but I'm going to take that one step further and talk about virtual hangouts. Virtual communication is huge, and I'm sure that everyone is starting to do more virtual communication than they're used to. But what about an actual virtual hangout where you can't necessarily hang out with your friends and get together with them if you're following the social distancing, but you could, however, virtually hang out with them? Why not have a cup of coffee over a Zoom meeting with someone, or Skype or FaceTime? Have a glass of wine with them, hang out. Maybe there's a show that you're both watching at the same time and you can kind of connect with each other in the middle and say, oh my God, can you believe that this just happened? Or you're both reading the same book and you can virtually have a little book club with each other. If you're not a gamer, maybe start now. This might be a good time for everybody to invest in some gaming systems and start virtually hanging out with people. Even if it's somebody that you don't know, just sharing a connection. Anytime we have those me too moments with people, really creates that feeling of I belong and creates an amazing connection and can really boost your immune system and your happiness.
Now, a lot of these things that we're suggesting, you don't even probably need to buy any type of a gaming console. There's a million and one apps that we just may not know the names of for things that you can just go to and jump on with somebody else to be able to have some sort of an interaction. So if there's something good that you guys are using that you've been loving, leave it in the comments, because it might just help somebody else out with their interactions with other people. The next tip is to leverage social networks. Now, this one's kind of a slippery slope. So I full-heartedly give you permission to go on and clean out your social media. Like if there's somebody that you're following that is just consistently negative, just unfollow their content, focus on the positive. You can even go a step further to really just go out and search for social networks that are specific to maybe a hobby that you've started doing. If you've started painting, look into a painting group to get some tips and advice. If you find that there is advice that you're looking for, like what to do with the kids while you're home and you don't really have any structure or plan for that, join a group for ideas. I mean, the types of groups that are out there on social media are endless, and it's always like surprising to see what hobbies have these like really big followings, which could be interesting on its own. So really make sure to leverage those social networks to create positive environments for people that you can go to and talk to and just build off of as resources as well.
I think that's great. This is the most amount of time I've ever had to be on social media. And right, there's a lot of negative social media that is out there. What's really important is finding those positive ones. And I feel like there is a group for almost anything. And if it doesn't exist, you could create one. So want something fun to do is create one. Now, the next tip is about surrounding yourself with warmth. And that means curling up on the couch with a blanket, having a hot cup of tea, just kind of that snuggly sensation. I've got my sweater on today. It's cold. I'm in Vermont. I've got my hot tea. And just this warmth alone creates the same connections neurologically as physical touch. So when someone's snuggling up to you, you can kind of snuggle up to something warm and cozy, and you get that same comfort sensation, which is really great. So if you don't have somebody to snuggle up with right now and you're feeling isolated and lonely, snuggle up with something warm. And now don't hate me for this, but you can get that same sensation from our comfort foods as well. So, the glass of wine, some popcorn, whatever it is that you just love, then go ahead. I'm giving you full permission to do it because it creates that great sense of someone is comforting you, that physical touch, and makes you feel really happy.
Now that's going to go into tip number 5. So if you find that you're indulging in all of that extra good, warm, delicious food, another great thing for your mindset and happiness is having a routine with exercising. And we all know this one, but we all know that gyms are closed, we're socially isolating. But I have seen an amazing trend of local fitness facilities really all over that are now offering their fitness platforms for no cost during this time. So you could go ahead, jump on, take a virtual exercise class, sign up with a group of friends that are in your community. Like, send it out and just say, hey, do you guys want to do this every morning? And we'll talk about how it went afterwards. Like, you can even build upon multiple tips that we're giving you guys and really create a good structure around that. Now, I know you might think, okay, well, I'm home with the kids, which that makes it harder. But I know even Christina was telling me she was getting emails about kids yoga for her son. And so there's a lot of great resources that are even out there for things that you can do with your kids. Being that school is out and everyone is really trying to come together to say, like, what is it that we can do to innovate and keep things at home that we usually would go out in public to do, but really trying to keep it in home, but keeping everybody interacting. So looking for those online fitness communities to really be able to build those relationships. But even if you don't want to be working out with others, because I know some of us are like, no thanks, I'll just work out on my own. Like, fitness still has that same benefit when you have that routine of being active for increasing your immune system, just giving you a better outlook and building up your mindset. So even if it's something that you do on your own, that's totally fine too. But making sure, creating a schedule to be active.
Along those lines of doing things on your own, tip number 6 is getting absorbed in those fictional characters. I feel like you're doing all the healthy tips and I'm getting all the ones that are like super controversial and everybody's gonna be like, come on, she's
It's
telling
fitting.
me
It's so fitting.
yeah, exactly. Like, she's telling me to get fat and watch a bunch of TV. So yes, I am giving you permission to catch up on all those Netflix series that you have been wanting to, all those recordings that you haven't gotten to, and all those books that you really love. Because what happens is when we get engrossed in these fictional characters, we connect with them. So this may not be an actual person that we're connecting with, but even just kind of, feeling like you're living through the motions of a show or a book and really connecting with it, that still is creating those great endorphins and having that good social connection. So go ahead and curl up with a book. You can create more social connections by having like a book club virtually or anything like that. Or like we said, talking with a friend about the show that you're watching. But you don't even need that to still reduce that feeling of loneliness and gain happiness. Just being by yourself and connecting with fictional characters can help you get there.
Tip number 7 is going to be practicing remote acts of kindness. Now, there is a million and one ways that this really could come out or could come to fruition. So I know there are people that are currently making masks, like sewn masks. That's always an option. Going to your practice, seeing what you have for supplies to be able to donate, if that's something that you're able to do or in a position to do. I know that there are a lot of healthcare workers that are looking for masks, for gloves, for disinfectants or hand sanitizers. Making sure that your community members, you might not be able to deliver things to them personally, but there may be avenues set up to make sure that, at-risk people in your community are able to get access to the things that they need, whether it's donating some sort of food or really anything that you can come up with. And I know that we are all in situations where our finances are changing right now, and that could be a stress. So it really doesn't have to be something where you're contributing anything that's monetary. It might be writing a little letter and sending it off to someone who's doing something that you appreciate. I know in our community right now, our school districts, the school buses are still running and they're dropping off meals to all of the kids now just to ensure that they have food. So I know that people have been giving them notes and giving them cards along the way just to say thank you. So even recognizing others for what they're doing is an act of kindness. Just taking time out of your day to tell the community that you appreciate what's going on. It could be advocating it for something else that's happening or bringing awareness to people that are in need as well. So the list really goes on and on for what you can do for acts of kindness.
Yeah, and there really are lists online too. If you check your state community pages when it comes to Facebook and social media, there's a list of things that they're looking for volunteers to do, things that you can do remotely, depending on what your comfort level is. So it's really exciting. The positive parts of it are seeing people come together as a community is really amazing. Now, tip number 8 is, we all know this, is spending time in nature. Now, wherever you live, if you can get outdoors, get outdoors. This is something that we have been striving for every single day. In fact, I was going to record this outdoors, but you could literally see my breath like look like I was smoking the whole time I was talking.
We started outside, to be fair, and then we had to make a transition.
It was a little bit too cold, but it was great to get some fresh air while you could. But basically, spending time outdoors as much as you can. We all know that getting fresh air is good for us, and spending time in nature is not only good for our mental health, but also our immune systems. So again, we're really focusing on how you can stay healthy, not only just ensure that you have, lack that feeling of loneliness, but that you're boosting your happiness as well. And it's funny, you would think taking a walk in the woods by yourself would feel kind of lonely, but research has proven that it actually makes you feel more connected to this world when you take a walk by yourself. So go ahead, if you can indulge in that moment of taking a walk in the woods, go for it. Now, everyone's living circumstances are going to be different as far as what you live in. So you may not have woods, you might have deserts around you. Whatever you can do, even just sitting outside and watching the sunrise or the sunset and taking in those natural moments are going to release endorphins and really make you feel more connected with this world.
Yeah. And like Christina was saying, there's no, realm as to what is going to constitute being in nature. So being in nature to one person might be going out on a hike on a big piece of property that they happen to be on. For another person, it might be sitting out on the porch, or it might be taking a stroll down a sidewalk where you're able to stay safely at a good social distance for everybody else. So it's going to look different for every person. The big thing is just getting out and being surrounded in some sense of just nature. So something natural. Now, tip number 9 is going to be to go back through and revisit old photos. So I know like none of my pictures are organized. They're all on like a series of like multiple iPhones that have never made it anywhere official. So now is a great time to go through and do your spring cleaning. So go through the pictures, sort them out, organize them. Looking at those pictures also gives you this great sense of nostalgia and closeness with whoever it is that you're looking at in those pictures. So it gives you that sense of social interaction as well, even though you may not be talking to that person specifically. Another thing is that could be then tied to using it as a conversation starter. Like, hey, I was going through all my pictures and I just saw a picture from when we went here. And then just being able to have a conversation about those memories, which is going to give something a little bit distracted from the current situation of what's going on. But it's always a great way to, one, distract yourself, but then to also create that interaction between people. Once again, even though it's a little bit more fictitious that we're doing with it being pictures.
Well, the last tip that we're going to give you to really boost that happiness and reduce your loneliness is to sing. Listen to music and sing. If you can go in the shower, if you can go in the car, Chassie's probably going to get off of this and she's going to be singing in her car the whole ride home.
Nobody wants to hear that. I don't know.
Nobody wants to hear it. You do it by yourself. That's totally fine. Anything that you can do to really produce that feeling of happiness and connectivity. When you know the words to a song, you connect with the singer. When you can sing along with them, even though they're not next to you, they're not in front of you, you've never met them, you still are creating this social connection. So virtually, we have those same feelings that are produced in our brains and in our bodies when we connect, even if there's not a person in front of us. And that's what we want to do, is we want to create this different type of social connection. It's completely different than the way that we've ever connected with people before. It's still good for us. So connect in ways that you can. If you really are into music, there's apparently a bunch of virtual concerts that are happening, which I didn't know. I just learned about this. So I got to check it out because I love music. And I know a lot of people were bummed that some concerts got canceled and they really wanted to go to them. So check it out. There might be some virtual concerts that you can go to. But listen to music, get lost in the music for a moment, really ensure that you use something like this for that 4-to-1 ratio. So if you just watch the news, you better put on your favorite song and start dancing to it. Go play with the kids, call your friends, whatever you need to do, create that virtual connection with your friends, have a virtual hangout. Remember the 4-to-1 ratio moving forward so that you guys can really ensure that you're still creating social connections. Remember this as physical distancing, not social distancing. We want to still have social connections as much as possible. If you're looking for more things to do, like courses that you want to take, Make sure to follow us on social media and YouTube as well. Subscribe to our channel, as we're going to be coming out with some really great free courses for you as well. So stay tuned for that. And thank you so much for joining us virtually from our homes and our cars at the Dental MVP.
Bye.
Bye.